this is Dr. Todd Kay, sports psychologist and mental training coach from the Athletic Mind Institute. Happy to be here today with you. One of the things I'm going to talk about today is motivation. Motivation during the winter months, especially if you're in somewhat of an off season. Not that there's really any off season for athletes today. Even the younger athletes are competing all year round. But if you think about it, sometimes if you're in a fall sport or a spring sport, these winter months, and particularly if you're in the north, which is where I'm located, you know, the gray skies, the colder temperatures make it even sometimes harder to get up at 6 a.m. and walk over and do a workout, even though you know it would be great for you, even though you know you're preparing for your spring season. It can be very difficult. So what I wanted to talk about today is about motivation, because a lot of my clients, even at the professional and Olympic level, even at the collegiate level and at the high school and middle school level, I'm finding that this theme of motivation, and it happens every year, becomes problematic at times. It's like, how do I stay motivated when I know I'm not competing for 3 or 4 months? Okay, if you're a high school student athlete, for example, you may not be competing in your spring sport until April. And it's only December, beginning of December. And so how do you maintain your motivation? Well, that's what I'm going to talk about today. First thing is, be open with it. Admit to it. My motivation is not what I want it to be. Part of increasing our motivation is certainly allowing ourselves and permitting ourselves to just own it. Own our truth. That my motivation is not what I want it to be. Share it with somebody. Share it with a coach. Share it with a teammate. Share it with a friend. Share it with a parent. Share it with me if you're working with me. Because once we share things, we can begin to work on them. If we stuff them and if we hide from them, we never can work on them. Second thing is discipline. Now, discipline, and I have some other podcasts on SoundCloud about discipline and motivation. Discipline is you do things regardless of the motivation. When you're talking about motivation, motivation can go up and down like this. Discipline is more of a steady, middle of the boat type behavior. That you're going to discipline yourself to go to workouts 4 days, 5 days, 6 days a week, to go to skill training 4 days, 5 days, 6 days a week, to do mental training 4 days, 5 days, 6 days a week, even though you're 3 or 4 months away from competing. That's discipline. Our motivation can go up and down. But when you are disciplined and when you follow through in a disciplined way on your workouts, on your mental training workouts, on your skill workouts, on your physical workouts, discipline creates motivation because it feels good. It feels good to be able to say, hey, I did this. And it was hard. A third thing to keep in mind is, particularly with physical workouts, when you're in kind of in between the season and you're wondering, well, what if I miss a workout? One of the things to think about is sometimes, what are your goals? What are your, for example, let's just talk about spring season. What are your goals for that spring season? You've heard the saying, champions are made in the off season. Okay, it's true. So when you say about, well, missing one is not going to be a big deal. But what that does is that it opens up the door to missing 2, to missing 3, to missing 1 a week, to missing 2 a week. And then before we know it, a month's gone by, 2 months have gone by, and then the season is coming upon us and we are not to where we would like to be. But the thing you can do is think about, what is it that you want to do in the spring season? What are sometimes your outcome goals? Maybe you want to get a certain time if you're a track athlete. Maybe you want to get a certain ERA if you're a pitcher. Maybe you want to have a certain batting average if you're a baseball or softball player. okay? Maybe you want to have a first serve percentage if you're a tennis player. There can be lots of different things you can do. Maybe you want to have a certain scoring average if you're a golfer. So sometimes those motivations, those outcomes can be great to print off and put on your wall. Because then when you are doubting, like, well, I could do this, my friends are doing this, it's not going to be a big deal to miss this one workout or miss, you're going to think twice. So again, first step, acknowledge. Be aware of it. Your motivation may be waning, maybe a little bit down. That's okay. Acknowledge it. Be aware of it. Share it with somebody. Okay? Second thing is, think about discipline versus motivation. Motivation does go up and down for everybody, myself included. You know, do I want to get out at 6 a.m. and go outside and do a run when it's 25 degrees? Not really. But I know I have certain goals. I know that discipline, if I let one day go by, it's going to be easier to let the next workout go by. Okay? The other thing is to think about the outcome goals that motivate you, and that's different for everybody. It might be some season goals that you have. It might be that if you're a high school student athlete, that you are trying to be and compete at the college level. And so you'll want to kind of keep those in the back of your mind. And I know it's long term because 3 or 4 months away and you're not competing, that can be a long time. It can feel like a long time. Or if you're a sophomore in high school and, you know, college is 3 years away, but you want to give yourself that opportunity. And so there's lots of different things that we can think about that motivate us. A fourth thing that I always say is do things in groups, do things with a teammate, do things with a partner. That makes things a lot easier. Now, there are some who are very self-disciplined as an individual. And they can do those things. And that's great. But when we have a team, when we have a partner who is also holding us accountable and we're holding them accountable, that can be really helpful, especially when you're in the north, especially when you're in kind of this transition of the season where there's not a whole lot of competition going on and you have to wait. You know, another thing you can do is try to create competitions. Try to create competitions with teammates, with other people. You know, if you're a golfer, try to create weekly competitions. You may not be able to go on the golf course, but certainly you can use a simulator and create a competition. You can use the putting greens and create a competition. There are so many indoor facilities as well, even up north, that we can have access to. There's beach volleyball indoor facilities that a lot of people practice on in the north. So again, when we talk about motivation, make sure not to beat yourself up. But you do have to acknowledge it. And then incorporate all the different things. And there are many others. I may do a second video on this because I think it's so important. And I've been hearing that recently as the days have gotten shorter. The sun's not out as much. They're in between their seasons in terms of competition-wise. And they know they need to maintain their, as I call it, the 3 legs of the stool, the skill, the body, and the mind, training and practice, but it can be hard. But again, very important. I hope this has been helpful for you today. Remember, a better mind, a better heart means better performance. This is Dr. Todd Kays. I'll see you next time.